My husband went through a huge step back in his health. I remember that he said, and in your own timing, I know that I'm going to be able to recover. I think it was because I started valuing who I was. Wow. That changed the completely mindset. Don't be with someone to find happiness. You know, money and good looks and all that comes and goes. You trusting in the Lord with all your heart, and He will lean in all His understanding.
Hi, world changers. My name is Lauren Maluhi, and welcome back to another episode of In Harmony, giving you light, wisdom, and encouragement to pursue the incredible life that God has for you. And what we've been trying to do on this podcast is, obviously a lot of us know these big names that we see as heroes, whether it's Martin Luther King Jr. or these people who are Nelson Mandela, big trailblazers. But sometimes the most impactful people are the unsung heroes, the everyday heroes that are in your community that we interact with on a daily basis, whether it's at school, it's at work, it's at church, or within your family. And we have the privilege of sitting down today with an everyday hero, an unsung hero, and that is Liliana Chavez. She is the owner of Liliana Chavez Photography, but on top of being a successful business owner, she is also a mother, she's also a wife, she's also a licensed professional developmental specialist who helps children and families overcome medical diagnoses. And she's also an instructor at a local gym here in our community. And we're super excited to sit down with her today. So Liliana, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anything I missed on that?
I don't think so.
Introduction.
People are going to be like, does
this woman sleep? Yeah, how much coffee does she drink, this woman?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be a little bit energetic and a little bit insane to do everything that I do, but it's capable.
Yes, it's definitely doable. And something that we were talking about on our drive over here is I feel like a lot of times we put ourselves in boxes. We say, okay, I went to school to get my accounting degree. I am an accountant. This is who I am and this is what I do. Or maybe we see ourselves as an artist and my thing is art. But something that I think is so inspiring about you is that you don't just box yourself into one thing. You've explored so many different parts of your personalities and what we were saying, the toolbox that God gave you. Was it difficult to do that, or unpack that a little bit more for us on how you explored these different parts of your personality?
I think it has been evolving yourself, because I think you grow. As long as you are growing and developing in different stages. For me, my personality, this is, I guess it works with my own personal choice of life. I like to explore myself in different ways, because it makes me grow in a personal way, in a physical way, in a mental way. I make a difference in the community. I make a difference in, inspiring others at 5 o'clock in the morning and telling them that they can do their best. And
at 6:30,
right
after.
At a
or
short,
6 right after,
or at a short amount of time while you invest yourself on physical health, which is going to give you that strength to build up on your entire, not your entire day, but your entire week. That's why I only teach at certain times, because I think that it just fulfills my purpose and it gives me enough that I can give, but then I receive so much too. I don't think someone just, we can grow on a talent and a gift that we have. But then as you grow, you start to kind of investing, you start understanding, you start growing, and you start exploring yourself in different situations. Yeah. So I truly believe that just learning to know who you are at this stage of time, but as long as you keep on growing. Yeah.
What were when you were, on that journey of exploration, saying, I really like this, or I really want to look into this. As we mentioned before, you are a professional developmental specialist. What were some difficulties that you had to overcome when you started thinking, maybe I really like photography and I kind of want to start it, but was there any fear? Was there any trepidations? Walk us through what that journey and thought process looked like.
Well, anytime that you feel that you're going outside of your comfort zone, especially if you have done something for so many years, it's kind of like it just sits right. Like, why would I want to do something different when I am here already? Right.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that whenever you start exploring outside and you start noticing how difficult things can be, from like opening a business and creating your LLC, and you have no clue what you're doing.
What does LLC stand for? Does anybody know?
Right? And you're like, I thought it was just going to be so much fun just to take pictures of people, and I have to pay taxes. And what is all this? And then you kind of like, there's a point that you say, do I go back being comfortable where I am? Or should I explore this and see how I develop? And I think there was a time in photography, you call it, oh my gosh, I just blanked out. But it's kind of like you're being an imposter syndrome.
Okay.
You feel like, am I really that good that others are really going to want to hire me? And I heard from, I think it was a podcast, but I heard from someone, and it struck me that whenever someone pays you, even if it's $5, but they pay you for what you're doing, you're technically a professional. And it's kind of like moving away from kind of like, oh, I just don't want people to know that I learned this from YouTube, because that's, back then it was just YouTube. But you actually went to school and you studied and you took time of understanding the mechanics of a camera and, valuing the time of your clients and, expanding your business. I think it's kind of like you start understanding the value of who you are in a professional way. But sometimes I think it's just taking that step. Do I really want to stay professionally where I am? Or should I explore something new? And sometimes it's just the fear and being too comfortable, settling up on, not wanting to move on. And for me, I was like, I think I can do this. I think I can evolve in this. And I think I'm getting good at this.
Yes.
And then you're like, wow, people are actually like interested in me.
Yeah.
And then you start bringing more value to your talent, to your evolution as a different professional. Yeah.
Wow. And something that I think you did really cool with your photography business is you really focus on also the value of a personal brand and branding. And I know you shared this story that the name of your business originally was actually New Trends Photography, but then there was this evolution where you changed to focus to change the name of your business to Liliana Chavez Photography. What was the reason for that?
So when I started photography, I thought it would be cool to have like a trendy name, because I thought it would, bring my potential clients or my customers, who like just to have a trendy name. And I was kind of like, I don't know who is going to like Liliana Chavez Photography. I was like, the name is too heavy. There's too many words. Like it was just too much. I was thinking too much of a lot. So then I decided to open my business as New Trends. I was like, it's trendy, it's fun, it's catchy, it'll catch like, new generations. But it was kind of like really hard to brand myself. And not because of the name, but because I didn't identify myself with the name.
Okay.
And I traveled to California, and I met one of my good friends and mentors. Her name is Maria Ortiz, and she is a photographer, Maria Ortiz Photography. And I was telling her, I feel like I haven't like hit my market. I feel like I'm not like, I don't feel like I'm kind of like communicating well with my customers. Like my name does not really go in hand with who I am. Okay. And she's like, you need to change your name, your brand name, to your name. She's like, you're an artist, you create. And she's like, if you think about like majestic artists, like if you have Leonardo, if you have like really Picasso, they go by their first name.
Yeah.
And she's like, because they value who they are as an artist. Yeah. And I was, I think we spent like, it was like a teenager talk. Like we were like there until 2:00 in the morning.
Like Danny Tanner on Full House. Talking one of those talks.
We were there for a long time, and she was like trying to get me into that mindset. And then the next day I traveled back to El Paso, and it was like between Dallas, I think it was like the Denver, and it was like there for like 3 hours. And then I was like, I'm going to do this. I opened my computer and I went to GoDaddy.com and I was like, Liliana Chavez photography. And I was like, oh, it's not taken. I'm like, of course it's not taken because it's so long. It's a unique name. And I was like, so right there, I went to my website. I changed the whole domain name and it just created. And then by the time the next day I called Maria and I was like, I changed everything. She's like, whoa.
She said, you're fast.
You're fast.
Good for you.
Yeah. She was like, I didn't know I was like that good of a mentor. But and I cannot tell you, Lauren, that ever since I changed my name, it identified me for who I am. Like it seriously just like it cleared my mind. I knew who I am. And I think I was able to attract more clients than ever before. But I don't think it was my talent. I think my talent has always been there. Obviously, technology, grows, and there's so many things in photography, in digital marketing and all that. But I think it was because I started valuing who I was that changed the completely mindset of my name. Yes, the trajectory of who I am. Yeah.
So it sounds like you making that change, it was empowering, but it also, for yourself, but it also attracted other people to your business. Can you go into that a little bit for our viewers? What is a personal brand, and why do you think that a personal brand is important, not just for business owners, but for the everyday Joe?
Yes. So in photography, I'm just going to say it like that. There's 2 different types of branding sessions. So this is the way that I brand my customers or help my customers understand. One is a headshot session, and the other one is a branding session. Okay. So a headshot session is just kind of like who you are. Mm-hmm. This is me, like your name. It's kind of like pretty much it says the word. It's just a picture of your head, maybe a little bit of your chest, and but pretty much it's kind of like, hey, this is who I am. So that's kind of like the first step, having kind of like, hey, this is what I want. This is who I really, kind of like my business. If you're doing, if you think that you want to do a pizza place, or if you want to create a business of hamburgers or real estate, it's kind of like, this is who you are, the first picture. But then the second picture is the why. Why you're coming into that business. Why are you making burgers? Why are you doing, why are you selling, a jewelry line? Why are you selling homes? But what is the difference between you and everyone else? In order for you to understand who you are, or in order for others to understand who you are, you seriously need to have a clear mind and a vision, a mission statement even of who you are. Yeah. Because you cannot sell something that you don't have. Yeah. So if you want to sell beautiful images and expressions, then that's how you have to put yourself out there. This is who I am. I love taking pictures, or I love selling not just a home, but I love selling, memories and experience. And in this kitchen, you're going to, make cookies with your children.
For Christmas.
Right, for Christmas. And in this room, you're going to relax and have, that peace that you need after a long day of work. Yeah. And you need to sell that to your customer, to your clients. And that way they understand that you're selling that experience.
The why.
The why, right.
What would you tell somebody who says, okay, Liliana, I hear what you're saying, but there's so many photographers out there. There's so many real estate agents out there. There's so many different web developers out there. And they're my competition, or maybe it's oversaturated, or there's no room for me in this niche. What would you tell somebody who feels like there's no place for them within the competition or within their industry?
I'm going to tell you in two things.
Okay.
One, your potential clients are yours, not because you don't have to fight your competition, because when someone comes and inquires you, they're loving, first of all, who you are.
Yes.
And your work. So right there, when at the beginning, when I was, beginning, I was trying to convince people of who I was and why they need to hire me. But when I realized that they were actually already inquiring me because they really liked me.
They're already sold on.
Right,
Liliana.
right. They loved an image that they saw from someone, or they saw me on social media, and then they they connected with me. And I was doing the other way. I was trying to convince them instead of just giving them what the experience of my business was.
Wow.
So in order for you to love, or in order for your customers to understand who you are, you have to love the experience of what you're offering.
Wow.
And the second, I was going to tell you, like in number one, number two, right there, I think it's called Paseo del Norte, that street.
Okay.
But there is,
yes, it is.
But it is, you can find Cafe Italia, and right in front of it or behind it, it's Marco's Pizza, and next to it, they just opened Dion's Pizza. There's a pizza place within walking distance. You can actually park in all three parking lots, and they won't even notice what you are.
That's a good point.
But it is so, your potential client is going to find you, one, finding the need that they need at the same time. Obviously, if you want a little bit of wine and, feeling yourself a little bit more sophisticated.
You're feeling fancy.
Right. So maybe you're going to, choose one versus the other. So it's more of what your customer needs, but you're not going to know unless you show them the experience of how it is.
Ooh, and what you do differently.
And what you do different. It could be the taste. It could be like, I give you, for this, you get buffalo wings, or for that, it could be, you're going to find a niche of who you're serving.
Yeah.
But you're going to find that. Your only competition is yourself. And it took me years. Seriously, like I say it so easily, but it seriously takes you a lot of time to understand that you're truly competition. It doesn't mean that you don't have to be aware, but even within like pricing, I used to be like, let's see how much like so-and-so has their pricing. And then how, this other photographer priced themselves. And then I was trying to price myself within what everyone else was pricing. But then I didn't know, maybe they were pricing themselves according to what their finances is. If there's a photographer that charges $6,000, but then there's one income at home, and then they need that to survive, maybe that's why they're charging that, or maybe if I charge, that my investment is completely different, because, we all have our own different finances.
Yeah.
And you're trying to fight finances that you don't even know what other photographers or other pizza places or other marketers or other homes,
Yeah.
The other thing, it's really interesting. I love going to the Parade of Homes. So there's a Home Builder Association, and twice a year, or even 3 times a year sometimes, they have what they call the Parade of Homes. And I really love that there you have Crown Heritage, and you have Palo Verde, and you have Pointe Homes and Winton. Right, but they're all on the same block.
Literally.
Yeah. And then it's like neighbors, and it's so intriguing because they're competing, outside, but it's so beautiful. I've seen, the Palo Verde team going to the Crown Heritage team, and they're all like, oh, good, you did this, and it's so cool. I love how they, one, support each other. 2, I love that they're all unique. Yeah. And you would think that would not work. Like, why would you want your competition to be right there next to you? Yeah. Right? And then you have, like, in that same block, you're going to have neighbors with different builders. But I think through numbers, through your teams, I feel like the Home Builder Association does that to create a bigger and stronger team, because through numbers you grow. You make yourself stronger.
Yes, and the people who went to the parade of homes is thousands of people pay money to go and see these homes. But it's so funny, if you drive by the week after the parade and you see an open house there, maybe that agent gets 5 people that walk in that day, maybe 4. But because we all do it together, thousands of people come. And what you were saying is your competition helps your business. It makes you better. And then it gives you the ability to offer a better product for your customer, because there's that accountability. There's that, we need to be on our A game because Dion's Pizza just opened up next door. So let's get it together.
Exactly. Or let's make sure that our audience or our customers understand who our business is. Right.
And it's a celebration of the uniqueness of each builder, each company, each photographer, versus seeing it as like, what are they doing? Let me copy them, or let me try to match what they're doing. So obviously you're very successful in photography and you're very passionate about it. Another thing that one of the big reasons I asked you to share your wisdom as well is because I'm a frequent attendee of your cycling class at our gym, and you have a 5 a.m. class and a 6 o'clock class on Mondays and Fridays. Arguably the most difficult time to do a class is 5 a.m. on a Monday. And I remember always thinking, like, she's always in a good mood. Like, every time I come in here, I'm sure there's days that are not perfect, but it never comes off that way. Unpack that a little bit for us, that this optimism that you have, that where it almost seems perpetual optimism, is it because more of a personality trait, or do you think that it's a decision that you make every day to show up with your best foot forward?
I think it's a choice. Yeah, it's a decision. For me, it is. I could, I feel like if I am a performer, and trying to coach, 20, 30, cyclers, or, customers, or you're going to call it. And they come to me because they want to feed from my energy. And my energy comes from different ways, from my music, from the way that I talk to them, the way I approach them, the way that I call them by their name. And I think they value that I know who they are. And that's why they come. I have some people that have been there for 10 years.
Wow.
Just because they have followed me from one place to the other. Even during the pandemic, they're like, are you teaching? I'm like, no, we're in the pandemic. But I feel that I love giving that energy, because what you don't have, you cannot give. But at the same time, everyone that comes, are my students that come to my class, they give me that energy. Every time that I hear someone that's saying, you know what, today I aim and I was working so hard and I was able to burn, 600 calories. I was able to, the distance was 10 miles today. That's the first time I ever done it. For me, that is like, oh, we're going to start the week like
on a
good note. Yeah. Because I feel that through numbers, you grow. And I love doing group performance
classes.
or group classes, because I feel that you grow when you have someone next to you that pushes you.
Yes, that's
you perform
so true.
better.
Yeah, and it's so crazy how sometimes I'll go in like, oh, I'm tired and I look crazy, and I'm like, no one talk to me, please. And it's crazy how, because of the decision that you make and your optimism, it permeates and it spreads to the rest of us, so that now we leave and we could bring that optimism and that energy to the people that we interact with. So that's just so cool that on top of what you do with photography, and you still have time, you still make the time and the energy to put into that is so impactful. And I know another thing that we had talked about on our drive over here is you have the ability to explore maybe all these different gifts that you have or interests that you have because of your situation at home with your husband, because of that support that you may have from your husband. And a lot of us, maybe we're unmarried, we're single, young adults who are trying to, maybe we didn't grow up with the best circumstances at home, where we may not know what a healthy relationship is. How impactful would you say your husband was in creating Liliana Chavez and the successful business owner and entrepreneur that she is today?
Well, first of all, you need to love that person too. And he loves me a lot in order for me to create and be outside the home for a long time.
Wow.
But I really do feel that if you are in search of someone and that special someone has not arrived in your life yet, one of the things that I have taught my kids, but I have taught myself, is don't be with someone to find happiness. You need to find your own happiness. Money and good looks and all that comes and goes. But the happiness and the joy in the relationship that you have with someone goes beyond that. Be with someone that understands your vision, that allows you to grow in all sorts of way, that allows you to explore yourself in a professional way, in a spiritual way,
Wow.
that allows you to grow and does not put limits. And that's one of the things, obviously my ADD goes beyond, and probably my husband's like, either she is hopping at home or I should leave her doing all that. But I really do feel that he has learned to understand that my happiness comes through all these different boxes that I have. And managing all of them has worked for me as far in a personal way, in a professional way, but in our family as well.
Wow.
We have learned to grow, even when my kids were in tournaments and I was doing, decided, for a few years to do marathons, and I was training.
Wow.
And he would take the kids to, to practices while I was practicing or I was training for, my marathons. So I think choosing a partner that allows you to continue growing and allows you to find that, personal growth
And celebrates it.
Right.
instead of
And
puts
celebrates
down.
it. Right. It's so important. But I really do feel that finding, love of yourself and finding that happiness within you, and then you find someone to share that happiness
Wow.
with. So that's one of the things that I looked when I was searching for someone that would allow me to grow, but then allowed me to share who I am with that person.
And since we're on the topic of marriage and relationships, what is a piece of maybe marriage advice, maybe relationship advice that you wish that you knew all those years ago when you just met, started getting to know your husband?
One of the things I feel that if I were to go back in time, is to just to help each other in understanding each other's vision. I think even I think I've been a little bit too within myself, and I could always help him as well to get his goals as well. But I truly feel that putting God in our relationship has helped us so much in our lives, in our, raising 3 teenage kids, has, without him, it would be more difficult.
Yeah.
But being for each other, has helped. It has helped so much in our marriage.
Putting God at the center.
Putting God at the center. Mm-hmm.
What would you say, this very jam-packed schedule that you have, being a good wife, being a good mother, being a good instructor, showing up with that energy, being a successful business owner, what role would you say faith played in all of those different hats that you wear?
Oh my goodness, in all of them. I have seen faith in every single one of them. Faith is believing in things that you don't know that exist but are there. And I never knew that I could be a photographer if I seriously didn't believe. Obviously, having, faith just doesn't come without. Sometimes we feel like faith is just believing, but it's actually an action. It's acting upon. That's pretty much it. Acting upon with God's power. And I truly believe that without his light and his guidance, I could not do all the things that I do. Faith has taken place on, struggling with my husband's, health condition that he had for, in the past years. Faith has helped us raise 3 teenage kids and then sending them off to college, and one of them, in almost getting married. Faith has come in different ways of acting upon, being there for my clients whenever they're going through a hard diagnosis and they're trying to teach their child how to, survive and strive in life. Faith has been there, on giving that light. Photography is creating and just, building that light or adjusting that light either in a huge aperture, in a big way or in a small way, giving that big light or sometimes dimming it down. And I think just God puts us in different ways, but it's through faith and understanding and acting that just helps you balance. My husband, when our kids left for college, because he's, he loves construction and he's all into, building, he gave them a little balance,
Scale.
a scale. And then he's like, life is just like a scale. You cannot move too much to the left. You cannot move too much to the right. You have to, sometimes it can be a little bit in between, but sticking to a well-balanced life just keeps your life in a better and more purposeful view and vision.
Wow.
So having, good finances, having a good balance in your relationship, friendship relationship, in your relationship with your significant other, in a relationship with your coworkers, in a relationship with yourself, just finding that balance helps you understand and helps you balance your life so much better.
Oh my gosh, that's so good, because often the people who are on the extremes get the most attention, and we think in order to lose weight, I have to go to the gym 7 days a week and I have to be there for 5 hours, but then we find that sometimes we're so exhausted and out of balance that it's hard to find that equilibrium again. And my dad always gives us the same advice. Everything in life is about balance. And that's when you start to find harmony. And I truly believe that that's the life God wants for us. He doesn't want us to be exhausted on whether we're on the left or the right, or we have these extremist lifestyles. The harmony and the beauty of life is in the balance. Talking about faith, was there ever a time that you struggled with your faith, or maybe there were times where you're like, God, are you there? Are you listening to me? Kind of unpack that a little bit more for us, what your faith journey has looked like.
I think not only me, but I think we have all felt lost in one way. And feeling lost, I can tell you that feeling lost sometimes feels like you have been forgotten. And sometimes you feel that God has not been there for you. But it is so interesting because he gives you tender mercies, like, hey, I'm here. Sometimes we want, a shower of rain, but he just gives you little drops.
Wow.
And we feel that what we want at that moment needs to come now. But sometimes it comes in little tender mercies and steps. Like I mentioned before, my husband went through a huge step back in his health. He had a stroke a year and a half ago. And one of the things that truly impacted me is right there, after he was taken from the ICU and then we had to go to rehab, we said a prayer, And because I had to leave him for a few weeks, almost a month.
Oh my gosh.
And he said, I'm going to say the prayer. So he was paralyzed, but in his own way that he could speak. I remember that he said, and in your own timing, I know that I'm going to be able to recover. I never once heard him, complaining or, why did you do this to me? Or how does this life happen? Or how come I have to learn how to walk and to eat and brush my teeth? And from one snap to the other, he was like in bed rest. And really that impacted me. It didn't mean that I was not mad. And I started reading the Bible a lot. And I started just comprehending in, episodes on how the situation of life could just, in other people's life, can just evolve, and how people felt so lonely. And I read this article that said, sometimes we feel that crying to the Lord, because you read a lot in the scriptures, and I cried to the Lord, and I cried to the Lord. It just means like just crying, but crying can be like shouting, like I'm crying, shouting, like, are you there? And sometimes I really felt that I was just there, because at that time when this happened, all of my kids were gone. Like I was home alone. My niece was there living with me, but it was kind of like both of us, and we felt kind of like, what are we going to do? But I would go into my room, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, when is he going to come home? Like we didn't know the timing and all that. And it's something that I did not, obviously I know a lot about medical, but it was something that I did not, it just happened, right? And I was like, how am I going to, do all this and manage? So I really felt like lonely. But at the same time, I think God brings, people, love, even like a rainbow, a shout of, someone just being there. I remember that I was at this, teaching my class, and I was like crumbling down before between one class and the other. And one of my friends that have been practicing or taking my class for such a long time, when I got home from teaching my second class, and I was just like, I was tired, and I was like, mentally, emotionally, and physically, because it was like a week that I could just I was just dragging. And right there, I walked into my door, and it was like frozen meals, like nonstop. And I was like, where am I going to put all this? But I think it was just God telling me, you're taken care of.
Wow.
And I think sometimes we can be someone's caretaker at the moment that they really need it. And two, you don't know when God is going to you feel like you're being alone and you have been forgotten, but then he sends you someone.
Wow.
In his mercy. Yeah.
Wow. That's so, I think a lot of times we think of the person going through the diagnosis, which is obviously, a soldier, the one who's like your husband, the warrior, he's a warrior for overcoming that, but it also has an effect on the family and the wife and the people that they love. What would you tell somebody out there who's maybe going through a tough medical diagnosis? Maybe it's them, or maybe it's a loved one. What is something that got you through this really difficult part of your story?
One thing that it's important to know is that you're not alone. Someone has been there, and someone has gone through that. Sometimes you just have to speak out, and someone just has to listen to you in order for you to have that connection. And you're, one of the things that it's important to know is that Jesus himself, has suffered for that, and you can relate to others through that.
Wow.
And I know it's hard, and they call it the happily ever after, kind of like, you hear all these people saying, oh, and he survived, and now, my husband is walking, and they lived happily ever after. But then there's people that are still living that between the lines.
Yes.
And you're stuck, and you're feeling like, when is going to be my happily ever after? And I can honestly tell you, things cannot and are not going to look the same. They're not, and you might think, when is going to be my time? But your time might look very different. But I can honestly tell you that if you pray about it, if you have the faith, going back to faith, if you go back to trusting in the Lord with all your heart, and he will lean in all his understanding and in all his ways, he will manifest himself.
Yes.
And it could be through every, it could be like, again, going back, and I probably am sounding very redundant, but it's going to go through his own timing, in his own ways, and at the right time. Wow. So you just have to trust in the Lord with all your heart. And you have to understand that there's another divine soul out there that is going to put you in doubt. But, like the scripture says, fear not, because I am with you. Just take it up to the Lord. I heard this because I read it over and over. Just cry it up to the Lord, and he'll hear you. There is no customer service waiting for you to hit 0, and you're going to hear that tone or waiting time. He's going to give it to you at his own time and in his own mercy. Yeah. But don't feel that it's going to come rushing down. It's going to come, and maybe it might not look and the outcome how you want the outcome to look, but at the end, you're going to look at the bigger picture. You might not understand it, but you're going to look at the bigger picture, or the bigger image, I would say.
Wow. So, and I think we focus on the accolades of like, oh my gosh, she's a successful business owner. She's a successful photographer. She does so well as an instructor. But also, one of the most impactful roles that we can have in our lives is being a wife, is being a husband, is being a mother, of being a parent. And I know that that's something that a lot of people, including our viewers, struggle with. We have, I have a friend who's a new mother, and she says it's just so hard to go through all of the changes your body's experiencing and to raise a child, and you're like, I've never done this before, but also I have to be a good wife, and I feel like I have to be sexy and look nice, but also I need to care, and also I need to be a good daughter. It can become so overwhelming, and that's outside of our professional career. What is a piece of advice that you would tell somebody out there who's struggling? How can I be a good spouse and a good parent with all these different balls that I'm juggling?
I'm going to say prioritize.
Prioritize.
So I think Instagram or kind of like just gives you the tiny little picture of how things are. Mm-hmm. I think I saw like someone posting recently, like they were making like cookies or something, and then they put 2 pictures. One, the cookie, and it looks so good, and then 2, the mess that we don't see.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, this is like, we're looking just at the perfection of the cookie, yep, and we don't see the dishes,
the chocolate chips on the
right?
The chocolate chip marks on the ceiling.
So going back to that balance, you don't have to, or you don't. Sometimes as mothers and as wives and as professionals, you're trying to balance and juggle who you are, especially like for your friend, that new chapter of her life. I truly feel is prioritize at the right time. Okay. Maybe you're not gonna have, the pot roast with mashed potatoes and the fresh,
lemonade,
right? The fresh jam and all that. Because sometimes we're
and
like
butter that you
right. We want to make sure that everything is like perfect. But maybe today you're gonna have, pancakes, right? Pancakes for dinner,
mac and cheese, y'all.
Right? Or pop the cereal, you know, and we feel like that is just being horrible, but that made you through the day.
Yep.
Whatever it's in your to-do list, cut it in half, because we make our list like our expectations. And sometimes I can honestly tell you that our kids are not they're not expecting that from us. Our husbands are not, expecting that.
Perfection.
Even our
Children.
employers, our children, yeah, they're not expecting 100% perfection.
Wow.
But I think we truly feel that we are on a rush of things, that you want to do everything in 100%.
Wow.
That one, you don't do everything, and then you feel like I have not accomplished anything in my life.
Wow.
Two, you feel that so overwhelmed. So if you were to ask me if your next question would be, what's your advice? It would be that, let's just say that you have piles of laundry and then you cannot sit here for such a long time to finish, 2 loads of laundry, especially when you have newborns. Oh my gosh, it's like laundries and laundries. Just set a time and put yourself and say, okay, I'm going to fold laundry for 30 minutes.
Wow.
And I'm going to accomplish that. And whatever I did in 30 minutes, that's it. And you're going to feel like, okay, I did it for 30 minutes. Let's close. And then we're going to move on to whatever is next. And I think if you prioritize things, maybe you didn't accomplish everything, but you might accomplish, putting your kids to bed and, saying your prayers and, going out with your husband on a date, or, finishing that project that you have at school, or, that semester that you were like struggling with, or that class. Just prioritize on what is important, and then everything else will fall through.
Wow. It's so evident, Liliana, and as we're wrapping up here, how you have done all these different things in your life with excellence and with passion and with love and with care. What would you, and it's very evident that you celebrate these parts of yourself that make you different and that make you unique. What would you tell somebody out there who's maybe struggling with maybe they're like, I don't know who I am yet. I don't know if I should try this new venture, try this new skill. What would you tell somebody out there to celebrate and explore these different parts of themselves that make them one of a kind?
So if you are struggling on finding out
Who you
your
are.
your purpose in life, and in different, because we might think that your life could be just one thing, but your life can be different things. And you're going to find yourself as you evolve. But one of the things that I can honestly tell you is, one, serve others. Because as you are in a community that serve others, you're going to start mingling and getting to know people out there. Serve your community. One of the things that I love to do is I joined the junior league, and there's so many projects outside in the league, and you learn to love El Paso, to love different organizations within El Paso. You obviously donate your time, and you take care of others, and it allows you to know more people, to learn, to have more connections, to have that that passion of a purpose, of a goal. You don't need to only join, that organization, but you can go to church, and there's always room for service.
Yep.
You can,
People
you can go to the fire station and you can say, hey, what do you guys need? But I think whenever you put yourself out there, it's going to let you know, one, that there's so many different needs and so many different opportunities that you can serve. And then on that, you're going to know, wow, I'm really good at this. I didn't know that, I could actually, build a home for, this person that just lost a home. Wow. And you're going to know that by serving others, your purpose in life has more meaning. Wow. That you're taking care of others, it as well is going to take care of yourself, of your love, of your mental health. Giving out is going to, whatever you need is going to bring back to you. Wow. And is going to find that purpose. Like, seriously, sometimes we feel like we're lost, and you're like, who am I? But I think if you put yourself in different situations, you will find your growth. You know, you're going to find how things evolve around you. Wow. So it's called individual worth. Wow. Finding that value of you and then giving out, but then giving out will give you that growth that you need in order for you to evolve.
Wow, I thought that's so beautiful. And I really thought you were going to say, like, spend time like in meditation and focus on your skills and your strength. But instead you said the opposite. You said focus on others, serve others, and through that you'll find yourself. That is so beautiful. And one of the best pieces of advice I think you can give somebody. So thank you for sharing that. Last question, Liliana, as we're wrapping up here, how can we as a community support you best?
Wow. I think there's a saying that says love, share, and invite. So love others, as you are, and I know like you're going to say, how could that support me? But seriously, like that loving others is going to support not only me, but everyone else in your community. Share your knowledge, share, you can love, if you're going to put love, share, invite, you can always love my feeds, share my page, and invite others. But it's not just about me. It's like love others, share your knowledge, and invite others to come to you, to come to Christ, to come and value who they are. I think I really love share, invite, and I know that if you take care of others, if you invite them in within your surroundings, and they know that that someone knows about them, that they are not unknown. Wow. I think that gives purpose to your life. So, wow. Yeah.
Well, you really are, and I mean that with every bone of my body. You really are an inspiration, and exactly like what I said, the world is made up of heroes like you, the everyday heroes, the mothers, the instructors, the teachers, the servants of the Christ, is the entrepreneurs. They're made up of people like you. So thank you for being the hero that you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and for inviting me.
Of course. Thank you for your time, Mrs. Liliana. We hope you all enjoyed and we found some value in this episode. Make sure to stay tuned for more upcoming episodes with amazing guests like Mrs. Liliana. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
The fact that I was once that child that didn't have the resources to pick up a violin in 4th grade. I just had the goodwill of other people who said, you want to do this? Let's do it. We'll figure out a way to make it.